inspiration, motivation, or hope? Do you let fear hold you back? Sometimes you feel lost or just stuck in your own thoughts, and you want a clear path to give you results. Then, my friend, you are in the right place. My name is Rachel Best, and I am your host of How to Make a Mark in the World, Finding Your Signature. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper because you're going to want to take notes.
Hello. How are you? Take two. So we are here today with a special guest, Daniela Roman. I had the opportunity to meet her at a speaker competition back in February, and we have stayed in touch, and I've been watching the things that she's doing. She is a powerhouse woman, an amazing woman, and I thought she would be amazing to have on here to just share how she's making her mark in the world. And so, Daniela, go ahead and tell us, how are you making a mark in the world?
Well, thank you, Rachel, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So, little backstory, my husband and I are the owners of Co-Author Network, where we help people share their story with the world. And I'm also CEO of Daniela's Delicious Delights, which is a catering business, and also going to be having a masterclass to teach cooking very soon. So that's really my passion, is cooking and serving and creating meals. So as far as making a mark in the world, I have been helping women through domestic violence relationships. If you see behind me, let me see which way I go here, the Behind Closed Doors book series, I'm launching the third edition this January, actually. So the first two editions in the last 2 years have produced 24 women that, stepped up, shared their story, got their story out there in order to inspire other women to do the same, to get out of these relationships, or even to prevent someone from getting in a domestic abuse relationship. So, that's been part of my mission as well. And, changing women's lives and inspiring, all these women are inspiring other women to know their worth, to know that they don't deserve to be in relationships like that.
Yeah. And I remember when you shared your story at the competition, and it's just so impactful. And I'm grateful for people like you that are giving women opportunities to be able to speak out, to be able to know that, to have either heal or to have a safe place to speak out. And so tell us a little bit more. We could go so many different directions with this podcast, because you and your husband have your co-authorship. Yes. Your co-authorship, your catering, your passion for that, your passion for women. And so, maybe tell us, how did you get here? How did you get to this moment right here in your life?
Great question. Well, through a lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons, a little backstory. I mean, I left home at 18 and just went on my own. And like I said, I had grown up in a very traditional Italian family. My dad was strict, but it was a great family. I had a great childhood. My parents, my mom was like sorry, there was like a call coming through. I had to get out. So
you're good.
Oh, anything can happen on a live.
Amen.
So, my mom was the stay-at-home mom, and, always there for us. My dad was, went to work, and, it was a great childhood, great upbringing, very traditional, but I was very, sheltered they were very overprotective, especially my dad, so it was more like a school and home and family. Like that was it, So when I left home at 18, I was very naive, even though my dad taught me a lot about life and, always shared with us, right, wrong, who we should hang with, who's good for us, not, if you don't have the experience, you know what I mean? Like those words, like you can hear it, but when you're out there, it's a whole different story, So when I left home, I just, I moved with friends and met new people and, like something I really wasn't used to, never dated really or anything like that. So I met someone and, I guess right off the bat, I was like, oh, he's Italian, well, my parents will love him, I thought. And he was older than me though, had lived quite quite an interesting life. And, at this point, I didn't really know or understand that. All I knew was like, oh, we connected. He's, telling me things that, I wanted to hear. And we started a relationship. But then I started to see the controlling, part of it, and the manipulation and the narcissism, and all these things I'm saying now. I did not know then that that's what it was. Now I can call it that. But then it was just, oh, this is what a relationship is. This is how it's supposed to be. So, it got worse. And it kind of put a strain on me and my family, who I was very close to, because I wouldn't go and visit like I normally would for months at a time sometimes, or didn't want to see them because I had to hide things. And, people, especially parents, we think they don't know certain things, but, just me going there and just like, having lost like a lot of weight and just the stress you could see, so that put a strain, and I didn't really, keep the connection that I always had. So a lot changed in those years, like I said, I was very young. It took me a few years to really understand that this is not normal. This is not normal, and I deserve better, and got out, moved forward. But in that time period, I also had a sexual trauma. I was sexually assaulted in my sleep at 19. So that was also something that was unheard of in my world, and I had no clue about these things, but I just buried the relationship, moved on, lived my life, got married, and had my son. And you just kind of, forget about that part of your life, but it manifests into other things that we don't really realize. So, moving forward, I was, like I said, working, raising my son, had a restaurant, a business, but going through depression and eating disorder, anxiety, all these things, but not knowing why, not understanding why. And just moving forward, just living life. But these traumas, like these unhealed traumas that people, go through, they don't deal with, can really, manifest into some serious things. So even addiction and, all kinds of things. So moving forward, fast forward, when I reconnected with Emilio, a lot of people know our stories. Like, we went to high school together, but didn't see each other for 28 years.
I
So
don't know if I knew that. I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, we went to high school. Never like date or anything like that. It's just, I did like him all through high school. We just didn't know it. But
oh, oh.
so when we reconnected, and starting to get to know each other, he shared some things with me, that happened in his life as a child, and different things and traumas. And that's just like a light bulb went off, and he was the first person that I opened up and shared like what had happened. You're talking 30 years prior, so
Wow.
holding that in for 30 years is, it's not healthy.
Mhm.
But that opened up a whole new avenue for me to get my story out there. Then the first step was sharing it in a co-authorship. We went to Canada, and I did a co-authorship with like 7 other women, and then a few others, and then started behind closed doors. So it's pretty much how that whole thing, with of course starting the co-author network. Amelia and I created that to get other people's stories out. If you've been following like the Spiritual Fitness Survivor series, we just launched that 4th edition in August. So that's just a compilation of all people's stories of survival, not just domestic violence, just whatever that is for you. And that's been an amazing book series. And like I said, we just launched that 4th edition with 28 authors. So that's amazing. Like, we just want people to know that it's important to share your story, because you never know who's listening, who needs to hear it. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have a story. Everyone has a story.
Mhm.
There's always something that you've been through that someone else is going through and needs to hear, like how you got through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you're so right. Like, we don't know that all the traumas, things that happen to us, and the things that we hold on to. And I think that was just our era, our generation, is
Mm-hmm.
that, we just didn't talk about it. We just kind of stuffed it and act like it never happened. And that does cause a lot of, traumas cause a lot of different things in a lot of different areas of our life. And, as you've been, going through this process, as you've been, sharing your story, telling people, do you find yourself getting healing throughout and releasing some of that those things that were, that you had bottled up inside of you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing because just the moment that I shared with Emilio, it was like a weight was lifted,
Wow.
just to get that out, So then, of course, moving forward, and as you're writing it, I've had this from almost every one of our authors, whether this book or spiritual fitness book or them just writing their own book, they're saying it's like therapy, you
Mm.
know. The healing begins as you're writing it out, and you have to relive a lot of this stuff. It's not easy, a lot of this stuff because things come up. There's things that came up in my memory. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot. And I had shared with Amelia one day. I'm like, I forgot I got pushed out of a moving car on a highway.
Oh my
I
gosh.
literally forgot that. And how do you forget? Somebody be like, how do you forget something like that? But you just bury these things, and so much happened back then that it's too much to even remember. So yeah, but there's a lot of healing that goes into sharing your story, and that's why we encourage people to do that because, like Emilio in the walls of I say the walls, the rooms of AA, he says, share pain is less pain. He's been
Mm.
sharing that a lot with people because it's true. The more you share it, the
Mm.
less pain you feel,
Mm.
and the less pain other people feel because you're helping them.
Right. I would even go even step further of you don't have the shame. When you
Mm,
realize that there's so many people out there that we can connect with that have been through similar things, there's
mm-hmm.
the shame goes away. I know as
Right.
I've been sharing my story, and finding more and more people that you like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And
Mm-hmm.
when the shame, the shame is gone. Like I don't have that shame anymore. And so there was something that you said a little bit ago, and you talked about your spiritual fitness and also your behind closed doors. And so did you guys decide to start these two, so just to give the opportunity for people to start sharing their story?
Yes, exactly. So Emilio actually got this is at least 4 years ago, I want to say, that we started the first spiritual fitness, and he always tells the story. He's like, literally, he was in the shower, and he's like, babe, guess what? Spiritual fitness survivor. He just like came up with this title,
That's awesome. That's
I think,
awesome.
well, you've met Emilio, so you
Yeah.
know his whole energy. So, so I was like, oh, okay, but he right away, we were like, okay, well, we don't want people to think this is like a religious thing
Mm.
because, as soon as you get into like spiritual, and then there's like kind of a cross in the book cover. In fact, I don't know if you can see it for the T. Can you see that?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So we don't want people to think like, it's about a certain religion, certain denomination. It's not. It's just spirituality, like whatever that means to you,
Mhm.
you know. But survivor, and here's the thing, it's how to turn your struggles into strength. So
Mhm.
that's what we wanted people to know, like, everything you've been through, you can turn it around. Like you can always turn a negative into a positive some way. So
Right.
this was our way of like, yeah, we want people to get their stories out there, to number one, heal themselves, and number two, just to help other people. And that first co-authorship that I shared my story for the first time in Canada, not in this book, I had women reach out to me because I was a little hesitant. I'm like, what is going to be the reaction? My family, all that. And
Mm.
I had quite a few messages. And this one particular lady, she messaged me and she's like, wow, thank you for sharing your story because I shared it with my daughter. And it finally helped her to make the decision to leave her abusive relationship. So, just hearing that, I'm like, yeah, I knew I made the right choice in starting to share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. You're on the
Mm-hmm.
on the right track to helping other people
Mm-hmm.
to be able to heal and release and have. And you said something about when you were writing, there was some things that had come up and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Like that's pretty huge to forget about. But something I have found by studying the mind and the brain and things is, our subconscious mind will protect us. It's meant to protect
Mm,
us. And so it will suppress those things until we're ready to
right,
deal with it. And so like as you're writing and as things are coming up, it was time for you were strong enough to deal with it. You were ready to deal with, that emotion and that trauma that happened to you. And
right.
I'm so glad that you are just giving so many people opportunities, and just these two series that you have, giving them opportunity to just get their story out there. And yeah, I always like when people are like, "Oh, I don't have a story." Everybody has a story, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
it is. You know, we all have. You know, some are greater. You know, traumas, or things that we
Yeah.
go through, and some are. You know, some people are like, "Well, I didn't really have all of that." That we need that too, right? Like we need
Yeah.
something that everybody has survived from something. And
Right.
so no matter how big or how small, or how big or how small you think it is, everybody has a story to share, and struggles, obstacles, things that
Right.
they've had to overcome to get them to here. And so, share with us a little bit of, some of those to get you here, and the obstacles that maybe even that got you to here, but also propelled you into where you're at right now. Can you share some of that?
So now you mean, explain that again, because exactly what are you
Yeah.
asking?
So some of, like, throughout all of your life, and the things that
Mm-hmm.
you've done, and things that gotten you to here, like those obstacles that have gotten you here, that you've overcome, that you are
Gotcha.
now propelling you into the future.
Awesome. Okay. Um, yeah, so like I said, I was married previously, and that's when I had my restaurant and raising my son and things like that. And again, went through a period of depression, anxiety. I had eating disorder, even suicidal thoughts. All these things come, and you don't know why.
Mhm.
So that was some of the hardest periods of my life, like going through that. And especially, a lot of people, they go through things and they know why, like, oh, I know, like I just had a loss, so that's why I'm depressed, or but honestly could not figure out, because like you said, we suppress things so deeply. It's like it just was totally out of my mind. So I'm just like, why am I going through this? And that was a very difficult, few years dealing with all of that. And also, knowing your worth, right? I
Mhm.
always struggled with, like a lot of women and young girls, body image and looks and what people think of you, and things like that. I've always had a strong personality where I'm, like I can be praying for you 1 second and then, flip you off the next second, if I'm driving in Jersey. You know what I mean? I'm a Jersey driver and Philly driver, so but you know what I mean? Like, um always there, like always wanting to help people, but you get a lot of times when you're like that, people mistake that for weakness,
Mm.
and that they can just walk all over you. So I had many years of like dealing with that, and then I had to just kind of toughen up a bit, like, no, I'm not going to let people walk all over me and use me for things, because they know, oh yeah, yes, Danielle, she'll do it, oh yes, because that is how I
Mm.
was, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I'm still that way, but I'm a little more cautious and a little more selective.
Mhm.
Like I'll do anything for anybody, but you have to protect yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
Boundaries.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Healthy
Even in our,
boundaries.
exactly, even your own relationships, like personal relationships, your boyfriend, husband, whatever. You have to set boundaries, or else, you know what I mean, people take advantage. So, but getting through all that, and also, here's the thing, like I said, had been married, and I was 22 years.
Wow.
And, great guy, everything, he helped me raise my son. We had a business. But when you realize, fulfillment and happiness is like kind of two different things, so I wasn't fulfilled.
Mm.
I had a good life, but I just wasn't fulfilled. I felt like I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing. And after my son graduated high school, we went in the Air Force, and I was kind of left to myself, like, well, what do I do now? Because he was my life for 18 years,
Mm.
besides working and all that. But he was like, he took my time, and fulfilled me. But, our kids grow up, they, they'll always need us, but they don't need us on the everyday, like they always did. So I
Mhm.
had to make a decision. I'm like, okay, this is, maybe not the relationship I want to be in the rest of my life. Like I said, good person, everything, but just different. There was a lot of differences and, things. So I had to make the decision, this over 6 years ago now, I think, to move on. So, and I did, and it was difficult, but, because I don't want to hurt anyone, but I had to, for once, be like, okay, what does Danielle want?
Mm.
We have to be, and some people look at that, like, oh, well, I don't want to be selfish. No, I'm always there for my family, still there for my son, whatever, but what do you want? Like, what are you doing for you? So it was time for me to just, okay, it's okay. And push away judgment, because I knew my parents were going to be like, what are you doing? And this one, everybody's going to have their opinions. But I had to just let all that go, because that's another thing that always held me back, was worrying about what my mom and dad were going to say. Because they, were old school, and different things. So, I always was like, oh, I can't do this because they're going to say this, or I got to watch that, but I had to let go of all that, even with them. I love them, but yeah, I had to do what was best for me. And I think it was, the best decision for me. And now moving forward, when I look back, I'm like, wow, look what I've done in the last 5 so years, reconnecting with Emilio and all the places we've been and the things we've done and the book series, I've got my story out, I'm helping women. So yeah, there was a lot of those things that, took me to where I am now. And I'm grateful. Like, I don't have no regrets.
So you and Emilio have only been together for like 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought you guys have been together for like ever.
You would think, right?
I did not know it's only been 5 or 6 years. Oh my gosh, you guys are always so adorable together. I love seeing you guys travel together, do things together. You're so cute together.
Oh,
so you guys knew each other from high school, and then you
Right.
had a big separation. Like, you just didn't talk to each other for like 20 some years. And then
Never saw him. Nope.
how did you guys get back into touch with one another?
How do you think?
Facebook.
There you go. Where does everybody connect today,
Oh
right?
my gosh, that's crazy. I don't think I knew that part of your story. Oh, wow. You guys have done a lot then in 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Learned a lot, been a lot of places, I mean, I've traveled before, but not as much as like, seeing different things and meeting so many new people and, speaking. This would never be like, if you knew me 6 years ago, Rachel, like I would never be on this. I would never be at Jesse's. Nothing of that. Like, no way. No way.
Wow.
I wouldn't even look people in the eye for years. It was more of a trust issue and insecurities, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to look people in the eye, especially men, because of things that had happened, and so yeah, it's been a huge growing experience for me, for sure.
Goodness. Well, geez, you have definitely, like, I don't know you from, that long ago, but just knowing you from what I know of you, like I had no idea. It's been a short time. And wow, you've done a lot. So you are definitely making you and Emilio together. God knew that you guys needed to be together to make a big impact in the world and just help other people to share their story. And so, share if anybody is interested in being a part of either one of those books, is tell how they could be a part of either one of those books.
Sure. So they could just reach out to us personally, privately, or they can email us at coauthornetworkinfo@gmail.com. And they can also check out emilioroman.com. Has a lot of information, everything, about what we do. And, if I can add, we have our big event, in January, that I believe, I believe you are coming. Hopefully, that would be awesome. January, we put on the annual business book camp. Last year, your friend Jose there and Marilyn Morales and all that launched their authority books on our stages. So, we have this every January. So it's January 5th and 6th this year, where we're launching several authors and behind closed doors, and also a speaking competition on January 6th, the World Cup of Public Speaking. So that's pretty exciting, where they can represent their heritage or, the U.S., whatever they choose. But with the $2,000 cash prize and the big ass trophy that we labeled the bat. Well, David Chebetsky, he labeled it the bat, the big ass trophy that your friend Raul Marine won last year. So yeah, so exciting. So yeah, they can reach out to us privately. If they would like, any more information on any of that.
Awesome. And so, like, are you with speaking? So how long have you been into speaking?
Well, I kind of got thrown into just, with our events with Emilio. Well, I never really spoke. Well, first of all, competition. That was the first with Jesse.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I've never done that. Yeah. Never done that. And really just kind of Um, we went to Canada with Gordon Melville. He has something called Mo Mondays, and that's another platform. One of the probably the first real platforms I shared my story with on stage. That was several years ago. And then just at our events, you know what I mean? I'll speak or whatever. But as far as really being out there speaking competition, all that, that's kind of new. Like, I keep saying, I'm like, I'm never doing another competition. It's too stressful. But
So
it's
you'll
fun.
put
It
them
was an
on.
experience.
You're going to put them on, but you're not going to be a part of it. Is that what is
Yeah, I'm
that
going
what
to
I'm
encourage
hearing right now?
people to do it, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just the encourager, the cheerleader.
Oh, you crack me up. You're
Mhm.
so good at it though.
Oh, thank
You
you.
should definitely not close that door. You should maybe
Yeah, I probably
investigate
won't.
that.
I just say it, but yeah, I probably won't.
Well, you might be thrown into another one. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's so awesome. So, okay, so so you have this event coming up in January. What's
Mhm.
next for, and well, yeah, let's circle back real quick to your, because you're like a multifaceted, like you have so many things going on. And so I just love
Mhm.
everything that you're doing. And you just did a catering for your friend,
Maryland.
Maryland. And what kind of got you into doing the catering? So is that more your like passion, your cup of tea of things to do? Does that just fill you up
Mhm.
inside?
Yeah, it does. And like I said, I had a restaurant before. I've done catering before, and I just wanted to find a way to get, my food out there because I would always post things like Emilio, he would take picture of everything I made, right? Before I really
Uh-huh.
got into this again. And
Uh-huh.
people were like, "Oh my God, it looks great." And everybody's like, "I want your food." So I'm like, "Okay." So, that's what got me into starting this again. And then and again, I like the events, like I'm very selective with what events, that I do. Like, of course,
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn, she had her amazing event last week, over a week, a little bit over a week now, for Izzy's Legacy. And of course, I was like, absolutely, and thankfully because I was a little nervous. I'm like, wow, it's 100 and some people, and I made everything by hand. I did,
Wow.
preparing, like pastas and meatballs and all this stuff. Eggplant farm. I made tiramisu, was a big hit. So,
Oh my
um, so I
goodness.
got great feedback. I was really, pleased with that. But I just enjoy it. I enjoy the creating and serving people and seeing people's reactions and loving it. So, like I said, that's always been my main passion. So that's where I'm going with that. And again, like I had mentioned earlier, the master class to teach
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
to teach because I've had a lot of requests for that. So I'm getting that started. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So now, do you mainly just stay in the area that you live in, or do you travel, or do you plan on traveling, or what does that look like?
Mhm. Yeah, right now it's local because, like I said, I mean, I'm still building this. Got to build,
Mm-hmm.
my team, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's as you can imagine, it's a lot. It's a lot of work to prepare, for 100 people or
Yes.
something. And I did that, myself this time. But I realized, I need a team and to help me. So to go other places or to have larger events, yeah, like eventually. But right now it's local.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Awesome. So when you started, because I see your food all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, it does just the pictures. You're like drooling, right? Because you're like, oh, that looks so good. I'm like, too bad she lives too far away. But
Hmm.
I'll have to come visit you guys sometime. We'll get up the coast
Definitely.
sometime.
Hmm.
There's a good core of you people up there that I'm like, we need to just get on up there so that we can
Right.
hang out with some of these people and just
Hmm.
get some of your delicious food. But
Well, in
um,
January, I'm catering it, so you have to come.
okay, all right. What are you making?
Hmm.
That'll
I,
depend on if I come. I'm just joking.
yeah. Okay, I'll let you know privately. We're not going to
Just
let the whole world know.
joking.
What is your favorite food? What is your favorite kind of food?
Oh, oh goodness. I don't know really. Whatever. I'm not picky at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, then you'll love anything I make then.
Oh goodness, that's
Awesome.
awesome. Well, I am so grateful that you hopped on here today and just shared a little
Hmm.
bit about who you are, your story, how you're making an impact, and just giving people opportunity to be a part of the book if they want to be a part of the book,
Hmm.
part of your book, and
Right.
share their story. And so, do you have any last closing words for us before we hop off of here?
Sure. And thank you. I want to thank you again, Rachel. This was fun, and I appreciate you having me on here.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. So, what I want to leave you guys with is, like we said earlier, everybody has a story.
Mm.
Don't ever think that your story is not important, because it is. There's always someone, whatever you went through, you can guarantee hundreds or thousands of other people have gone through it, and they may be stuck. They
Mm.
may not know how to get out of it, or how to handle it. So they need to hear your story. So just know that your story is important. And if you don't tell it, if our, world ends tomorrow, like we're taken from here tomorrow, and you haven't shared your story, you can guarantee somebody else will, but it won't be the way you would tell it. Only you can tell your story the way it truly happened.
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking some time and being on here with us today. And until next time, my friends, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This is your host, Rachel Best, and I hope you loved the show. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as share with a friend. If you would like, you can follow me on Instagram as well as Facebook under Rachel Best. You can also find me on my website at rachelbestspeaks.com.